If you're a leading director, having a true understanding of shareholder needs and expectations is paramount. The question is, are you a leading director? I'm Chris Clark, and this is BoardVision. I'm joined today by Chuck Callan of Broadridge Financial and Greg Lau of RSR Partners. Welcome.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Say and pay voting has not changed too much over the last couple of years. So when we look out a little bit, what do you think in terms of 2016? What will be the 2 or 3 hot issues? Will it be the pay ratio? Will it be the clawbacks? Chuck, what do you think?
Well, I think actually say on pay voting has changed over the last few years, and what we've seen is companies now have fully 5 years of experience with say on pay under the Dodd-Frank rules. A year ago, in the 2014 season, we saw that about 345 companies who had put out their pay plans failed to surpass the 70% support threshold. And that's important. I think people very commonly look at corporate shareholder meetings, and they may equate them with political elections, where if you get more than 50%, you're done. But really with corporations and directors, as Greg knows, you're looking for as much support of the shareholders as possible. So the 70% is an important threshold. In contrast, of those 345 in 14 that didn't surpass the threshold, we saw about 245 in 15. That is a reflection of the fact that companies have had more experience, they are engaging more with their shareholders, and they're really getting it in terms of the design of their compensation.
Greg, do you get that sense of improvement as well?
I think most companies know what the red flags are from the proxy advisory firms. They are explaining their programs in detail, and they're also meeting with their institutional investors on them. So I think the whole community has come together. And on balance, I think say and pay has been a good thing.
Let's get to something that kind of perplexes me. And again, this is getting back to truly understanding your shareholder. Retail voting has taken kind of a precipitous drop, and I have no idea why.
There's some practical reasons for that and some practical ways to address it. One of the reasons for that decline, I think, is because the proxy statement itself has become longer, more complex, more turgid, perhaps in certain instances. And I think retail shareholders, we're seeing that they respond well to concise information. They want to hear from companies, but they don't necessarily understand who are these directors.
But because it's not concise, is it disinterest?
If I don't understand something, I'm going to
back away.
I'll back away. I don't want to break something, so I'll let others, the greater good, who may know more than me, express, and rather than get engaged. So I think there is an issue there.
Greg, you were on the board of NACD. You work with boards all the time. Is the retail investors, the retail voting, top of mind?
No, I don't think so, and it should be. All companies ought to take at their retail investors and try to get that 28% or so of voting up. Some companies have been very innovative in improving their retail, and I think everybody ought to look at it.
Chuck, is there a how?
That's where technology comes in, just as a practical matter in terms of the cost of communicating with shareholders has come down over the years because of the introduction of more technology. And I think there are many more opportunities now. 3 times a year, Broadridge publishes statistics in the aggregate on some of the matters that Greg has mentioned here, where proxy access is really very, very current in terms of topics that are important to investors and to company directors. And I think more companies will see those proposals on the ballot in future years.
Right, I agree.
What other issues should be at the top of a director's agenda for next year?
For companies and shareholders, the matter of engagement is catching on. We're certainly seeing more engagement between companies and their shareholders, and I think that is leading to more alignment in certain areas. They'll continue to be activism. The regulatory landscape continues to evolve, and I think it's keeping everybody on their toes.
I would think on issues for the board, I mean, we always look at strategy and risk and now cybersecurity. I think they need to do a deeper dive sometimes and look at the talent, both in the C-suite all the way down. I think they have to look more at culture, disruptors. whether it's in your competitors, whether it's in the technology base. It's hard to look around the corners, and they ought to spend more time looking around the corners.
Talent is paramount. If you don't have the right talent management on the
Yeah.
board, you're not going to have
And
the
that
right
talent's
strategy.
got to track your strategy. So where your strategy is going, and boards used to have 3-5 years plans, and now something happens, it seems like every month, every 6 months, to alter the edges of that strategy, and so they've got to understand their talent.
Is there a priority issue in 2016 that directors should elevate?
I do think that proxy access continues to be a very important one. We now have in place something that allows companies and their shareholders to determine what is right for them. What's the right mechanism? Mm-hmm. Is it the 3% owner or group of owners continuously for 3 years, or is it something else? Do they get 25% nominations for 25% of the seats? I think that will continue to expand and continue to be an important issue. And I highlight that one, Chris, because I think it does speak to this issue of talent and skills and board dynamics. And there'll be a lot of boards who'll maybe look at that and say it's an opportunity, and others who'll look at it and say it's a threat. We've kind of gotten the chemistry right, we've got the right skills inventory represented around the table, but that'll certainly be with us.
I think that's a perfect way to end. And Chuck, I want to thank you for your expertise. Greg, I want to thank you for providing the board lens. If you'd like to learn more, please visit the NACD site, read the Blue Ribbon Commission report, go to the Broadridge Financial site, or the RSR site. Thank you again. I'm Chris Clark, and this is BoardVision.